Around 400,000 years ago, Europe was not a single landscape, but a shifting mosaic of frozen tundra, deep forests, open plains, and jagged mountain chains shaped by advancing and retreating glaciers. Temperatures swung between moderate interglacial warmth and crushing cold that locked entire regions under sheets of ice thicker than skyscrapers. It was in this unpredictable, volatile world that the Neanderthals emerged, a species molded by the brutality of the Ice Age, engineered by evolution to survive environments that would have driven other humans to extinction. But before we jump back in, drop a comment letting us know what time you're tuning in and where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our episodes are reaching. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing exciting topics here on the Primal Roots channel. Their story begins in the genetic and anatomical transformations that took place within earlier populations of Homo heidelbergensis. Over tens of thousands of years, isolated groups spread across Europe and Western Asia faced increasingly severe winters and fluctuating climates. Forests expanded during warmer periods, then vanished under glacial advances, forcing hominin populations to adapt repeatedly. As food sources shifted, migration routes evolved, and predators multiplied. Natural selection rewarded bodies capable of retaining heat, muscles suited for explosive strength, and brains wired for complex problem-solving in harsh conditions. These pressures shaped the physical identity of the Neanderthals. Their bodies became compact and powerful, designed to conserve warmth while enabling intense bursts of energy during hunts. Broad rib cages, thick bones, and strong limbs formed the foundation of bodies capable of moving through snow, climbing rugged terrain, and confronting large Ice Age mammals. Their noses grew wide and prominent, a distinctive adaptation for warming, freezing air before it reached the lungs. Their faces projected forward, anchored by strong jaw muscles that helped process tough, high-calorie foods needed for survival in winter. Every anatomical trait reflects the environments that molded them. Europe during this time was a world in transition. Massive glaciers advanced from the north, sculpting valleys, redirecting rivers, and grinding mountains into gravel. During interglacial periods, these same regions blossomed with forests filled with red deer, wild boar, and plants rich in carbohydrates. Neanderthals lived through both extremes. Their bodies had to withstand not only bitter cold, but also the sudden warmth that followed. They mastered the ability to move across varied terrain, track migrating herds, and anticipate seasonal changes long before the appearance of modern humans. Their brains grew to an extraordinary size, often larger on average than those of Homo sapiens. Brain organization differed between species, but in Neanderthals, the expansion supported memory, spatial reasoning, and sophisticated environmental awareness. These cognitive traits were vital in a world where prey herds crossed hundreds of miles and seasonal patterns determined survival. Their neurological structure developed through constant exposure to danger, scarcity, and the need for problem-solving in ways earlier hominins had never faced. The ecological pressures that shaped them also forged their culture. Neanderthals mastered stone tool industries such as the Mousterian tradition, producing scrapers, spear points, and cutting tools with remarkable efficiency. Their technology favored practicality over ornamentation, emphasizing sharpness, durability, and versatility. These tools accompanied them across diverse habitats, from the frozen plains of northern Europe to the warmer Mediterranean coastlines. Their tool sets were not static. They adapted as environments changed, reflecting a species capable of innovation rather than mere imitation. The world they evolved in was not empty. Packs of Ice Age predators, hyenas, wolves, cave lions, and saber-toothed cats roamed across the same territories. These animals competed for prey and often forced Neanderthal groups to defend their kills or abandon them entirely. Fossil evidence shows bite marks from hyenas on Neanderthal bones and signs of violent encounters with large carnivores. This constant competition required not only strength, but also social structure. Neanderthal bands developed cooperation systems for hunting, protecting young, and defending themselves from predators far larger and faster than they were. Life was physically demanding. Neanderthal skeletons often show signs of healed fractures, joint stress, and muscular attachments much deeper than those in modern humans. Many injuries mirror those seen in modern rodeo athletes, evidence of close-quarters hunting where hunters confronted massive animals such as bison or woolly rhinoceroses at dangerous distances. Yet many individuals survived these injuries for years, proving that care, compassion, and group support were integral parts of Neanderthal life. This social resilience contradicts outdated stereotypes that painted them as brutish or primitive. Their mastery of fire changed everything. Hearths appear repeatedly in archaeological sites, revealing spaces where groups gathered to cook food, warm themselves, and maintain social bonds. Fire allowed them to survive winters that plunged temperatures far below freezing. It opened access to nutrients through cooked meat and softened plant fibers. It also provided defense against predators, extending the range of regions where they could safely live. The strategic use of fire shows behavioral sophistication, foresight, and an understanding of landscape management. Evidence suggests Neanderthals used caves not just as shelters, but as structured living spaces. Excavations reveal zones for tool-making, sleeping, food processing, and waste disposal. They understood spatial organization and created microenvironments within shelters that optimized warmth and protection. These practices demonstrate planning, routine, and shared domestic behavior on a scale that mirrors early human settlements. But their lives were not limited to survival. They developed emotional complexity. Burials found across Europe, such as those at Shanidar in Iraq or La Chapelle-aux-Saints in France, show deliberate placement of bodies in the earth. Some sites even suggest the possible use of flowers or symbolic objects, although interpretations vary. Whether these acts represented ritual, respect, or social custom, they reveal a species aware of death and capable of collective responses to loss. Their vocal abilities, once doubted, are now understood to have supported a range of sounds comparable to the foundations of speech. The structure of their hyoid bone, auditory canals, and brain organization indicates they possessed some form of complex communication. Their survival strategies required coordination, cooperative hunting, and shared knowledge, none of which would have been possible without an effective communication system. Climate cycles continued to shape their evolution. Every glacial advance forced Neanderthal groups to retreat southward, while warmer periods invited them back into northern territories. This constant movement created regional diversity. Neanderthals in Spain adapted differently from those in Eastern Europe or the Middle East. Despite these variations, their core anatomical and cultural traits remained consistent, demonstrating a shared identity across vast distances. Their emergence represents one of the most successful adaptive experiments in human evolution. For more than 300,000 years, they dominated Europe and Western Asia. Their survival required intelligence, physical power, cultural depth, and social cohesion, traits that would later be inherited, modified, and expanded by modern humans. They were not a side branch, they were a major lineage, thriving in some of the harshest environments ever faced by humans. The first chapter of their story reveals not a doomed species, but one that rose from ice, endured the extremes of nature, and built the foundations of a complex and resilient way of life. Life for the Neanderthals unfolded in a world that demanded constant adaptation. Every day presented challenges shaped by bitter cold, shifting landscapes, unpredictable prey migrations, and fierce competition with large carnivores. The Ice Age was not a single prolonged freeze, but a sequence of drastic oscillations between warm interglacials and brutal glacial advances. These cycles shaped every aspect of Neanderthal existence: their bodies, tools, strategies, and social behavior. To survive in such a world, they developed a deep understanding of their environment, mastering skills that allowed them to endure conditions few other humans could tolerate. Their daily lives revolved around the search for food, water, and secure shelters. Unlike modern humans with broad social networks and extensive trade systems, Neanderthal groups were small and closely bonded, typically composed of relatives who depended on one another for survival. The landscape dictated their movements. In warmer seasons, they followed herds across open plains, tracking red deer, horses, bison, and the occasional woolly rhinoceros. In colder periods, they retreated to valley shelters, caves, and rock overhangs, relying on gathered plants, stored marrow-filled bones, and opportunistic hunts. Their diet reflected the harsh environments they inhabited. Neanderthals consumed far more protein and fat than modern humans do today. Stable isotope analyses of their bones reveal that they occupied atrophic positions similar to apex predators. They hunted large animals, not just scavenged the remains left by other predators, and their tools show clear evidence of butchery. Cut marks appear on bones of mammoths, reindeer, aurochs, and numerous other Ice Age animals. Hunting such massive creatures demanded coordination, strength, and strategic planning. Close quarters hunting was a defining part of Neanderthal life. Their spears were designed primarily for thrusting rather than throwing, which meant hunters had to confront prey at dangerous distances. Fossils show healed fractures similar to those found in modern rodeo workers injured by charging animals. These injuries demonstrate both the physical risks they faced and the strong social bonds within their groups. For individuals to recover from such trauma, others had to provide food, protection, and assistance for extended periods. But their diet was more diverse than once assumed. Excavations reveal that Neanderthals also ate plant materials, including roots, nuts, fruits, and seeds. Pollen, phytoliths, and starch grains trapped in dental calculus reveal a surprising breadth of botanical knowledge. In coastal areas, they collected shellfish and fish. In some regions, evidence even suggests the use of medicinal plants. Their ability to adjust their diet depending on season and location contributed significantly to their endurance as a species. The world around them was full of dangers beyond prey animals. Ice Age Europe hosted an array of powerful predators: cave lions, saber-toothed cats, hyenas capable of crushing bones, and packs of wolves that tracked the same herds as Neanderthals. Competing with these predators required vigilance and strategic use of landscape features. Neanderthals learned to store food in safe areas, guard carcasses, and avoid hunting grounds favored by carnivores. The presence of hyena dens in many archaeological sites shows that the competition for shelter was just as intense as the competition for food. Shelters played a central role in Neanderthal life. While caves are the most visible archaeological remains, they also built temporary structures using wood, animal hides, stones, and bones. Some sites show circular arrangements of mammoth bones, likely used as windbreaks. Hearths appear regularly, surrounded by layers of charred wood, burned bones, and stone tools. These hearths were the heart of Neanderthal living spaces. They provided warmth in freezing temperatures, a place to cook food and light during long winter nights. Fire transformed their environment, turning cold, dark shelters into habitable spaces where learning, storytelling, tool-making, and social bonding occurred. Tool-making technology evolved in response to these living conditions. The Mousterian toolkit, dominated by flake-based tools created from carefully prepared cores, demonstrates technical sophistication. Neanderthals used the Levallois technique, a method that required anticipating the shape of the final tool before striking the stone. This level of planning reflects advanced cognitive abilities. Scrapers were used to clean animal hides, points to arm spears, and blades to butcher meat. Their tools were not crude. They were efficient, adapted, and often more specialized than those used by early modern humans. Their relationship with the environment also extended to symbolic or ritual practices. While the extent of Neanderthal symbolism remains debated, certain discoveries offer compelling evidence of emerging symbolic thought. In Bruniquel Cave in France, broken stalagmites arranged into circular structures suggest deliberate construction deep within dark, inaccessible chambers. In Spain, red ochre markings on cave walls have been dated to periods before modern humans arrived, hinting at early abstract expression. While these findings remain under scrutiny, they challenge the stereotype of Neanderthals as lacking imagination or creativity. The structure of Neanderthal groups was shaped by challenges unique to the Ice Age world. Small, tight-knit communities needed to maintain genetic diversity while avoiding harmful levels of inbreeding. Recent genetic analyses indicate that Neanderthal populations were small and somewhat isolated, but not as genetically fragile as once assumed. Interactions between groups occurred periodically, allowing for gene flow and shared knowledge. These encounters may have taken the form of cooperative hunting alliances, seasonal gatherings, or social exchanges during migrations. Children played a significant role in these societies. Fossil evidence shows that Neanderthal infants and juveniles grew more rapidly than modern human children, but still required prolonged care. Injuries found on juvenile skeletons indicate that even young members participated in physically demanding activities or were exposed to dangers of the Ice Age environment. Yet healed injuries, nutritional evidence, and increasing brain size suggest that Neanderthals invested significant time and energy into raising their young. These long childhoods facilitated the transmission of knowledge, skills, and cultural practices. Life expectancy varied widely. Many individuals died young due to accidents, malnutrition, or predation. Yet others lived into their 40s or even 50s, remarkable ages for prehistoric populations. Older individuals likely served as reservoirs of knowledge, passing down survival strategies, migration routes, and hunting techniques essential for group survival. Their presence reinforced social continuity across generations. Climate fluctuations continually tested Neanderthal resilience. During warmer periods, forests expanded across Europe, altering the distribution of prey and forcing Neanderthal groups to adapt their hunting strategies. During glacial advances, open steppes dominated the landscape, and cold-resistant megafauna became primary food sources. These shifting environments required constant mobility and flexibility. Neanderthals learned to read seasonal signals, animal tracks, plant cycles, wind patterns, with extraordinary precision. Their deep environmental awareness allowed them to respond to changes long before they became life-threatening. Their emotional lives, though impossible to fully reconstruct, can be glimpsed through their material culture and fossil record. Instances of deliberate burial suggest a recognition of mortality and attachment to individuals. Tools found near skeletons may indicate symbolic placements or offerings. Care provided to injured or disabled individuals demonstrates empathy, cooperation, and group responsibility. These traits challenge earlier depictions of Neanderthals as emotionally detached or cognitively inferior. Their ability to endure for hundreds of thousands of years was not the result of a single adaptation, but the integration of countless interdependent traits: powerful bodies, advanced tools, social cohesion, fire use, and environmental adaptability. They created cultures suited to the specific demands of the Ice Age, cultures that survived repeated climate collapses that would have devastated other hominins. They thrived across environments ranging from the Atlantic coast to the Altai Mountains, each region requiring different strategies, yet unified by the core behaviors that defined their species. In many ways, Neanderthal life was a series of negotiations with uncertainty. They balanced risk and reward during hunts, protected themselves from predators, navigated fluctuating climates, raised children in unforgiving environments, and sustained traditions across generations despite small population sizes. Their daily lives were intense, physically demanding, and deeply integrated with the rhythms of the natural world. But their world was about to encounter another human lineage, one that would eventually share their landscapes, compete for their resources, exchange genes, and ultimately reshape the trajectory of human evolution. The intelligence of the Neanderthals has become one of the most re-evaluated subjects in prehistoric science. For decades, they were portrayed as simple, brutish hunters, locked into instinct rather than thought, surviving only by physical strength. Yet every new discovery has pushed this stereotype further into the shadows. The Neanderthal mind was far more complex, adaptive, and deeply attuned to the world than once imagined. Their behaviors reveal a species capable of planning, cooperation, creativity, and even symbolic expression. This richness did not emerge suddenly. It was shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of environmental pressure, social learning, and cultural transmission. Their culture can be understood through the tools they crafted, the way they organized their living spaces, the patterns of care they provided to the sick, and the rare but powerful evidence of symbolic actions. Neanderthals were not static beings repeating the same strategies across generations. They modified, innovated, and refined their techniques. The Mousterian tradition, dominant across Europe and Western Asia, was not a single unchanging toolkit, but a family of regional variations, each adapted to local resources and needs. Their mastery of the Levallois technique, which required visualizing the final tool before shaping the core, demonstrates cognitive abilities once assumed to be exclusive to Homo sapiens. Their toolmaking extended beyond stone. They crafted wooden spears, digging sticks, and potentially hunting traps. Schöningen in Germany, wooden throwing spears associated with early Neanderthals reveal aerodynamic shaping and careful balancing, indicating knowledge of hunting physics. The refinement required for such weapons suggests an interplay of observation, experimentation, and generational teaching. Neanderthals did not simply copy what they saw. They learned, adapted, and improved. The structures they created also reflect intention and planning. Archaeological sites show repeated patterns of living spaces arranged around hearths, with specific activity areas dedicated to hide processing, butchering, toolmaking, and resting. Such spatial organization indicates an understanding of efficiency and hygiene. Certain zones in cave sites contain concentrations of tools or bones that hint at repeated behaviors over long periods. In some cases, the accumulation of debris forms stratified layers, each representing a different moment in their occupation, like pages in a book documenting their way of life. Perhaps the most compelling evidence of Neanderthal cognitive depth comes from their treatment of the dead. The burials at Shanidar, La Chapelle aux Saints, and other sites reveal deliberate placement of bodies in pits, with limbs arranged in anatomically respectful positions. While scientific debate continues about whether flowers were placed at Shanidar IV, the possibility alone signals a species grappling with the significance of death. These burials were not acts of random behavior, but structured responses to loss. They suggest a recognition of individuality and an emotional connection that transcended the biological imperative to survive. Their care for the wounded further illustrates the depth of their social bonds. The Shanidar I individual, who lived for decades despite severe injuries, including a withered arm, blindness in one eye, and partial hearing loss, could only have survived because others consistently helped him. Providing food, protection, and companionship to a disabled group member required not only empathy, but long-term planning and a shared sense of responsibility. Such behavior challenges outdated narratives of Neanderthals as unsocial or lacking emotional capacity. Their ability to use fire also played an essential role in shaping their culture. Hearths reveal repeated burning episodes over years and sometimes centuries, indicating that Neanderthals knew how to maintain fire and used it to structure daily life. Fire allowed them to cook meat, which increased caloric intake and reduced parasite risks. It also softened plant materials, made hides more workable, and provided a focal point for evening activities. The glow of firelight may have fostered storytelling, teaching, and the transmission of knowledge across generations. While we cannot hear their voices, the evidence suggests that Neanderthal groups likely shared information verbally, passing down migration routes, hunting strategies, and tool-making techniques. Though symbolic evidence remains sparse, certain findings point to an emerging aesthetic awareness. A deep cave structure at Bruniquel shows that Neanderthals arranged broken stalagmites into circular formations. The purpose of these constructions remains mysterious, perhaps ritualistic, perhaps social, but their location deep within a cave implies intentionality. Entering such dark, echoing environments required planning, light sources, and a clear objective. At some Spanish caves, minimalist red markings predate the arrival of Homo sapiens. indicating that Neanderthals may have experimented with pigment use and symbolic representation. Their interactions with the environment also carried cultural dimensions. Neanderthals possessed a detailed understanding of animal behavior, seasonal cycles, and ecological risks. They observed migrations, tracked herds, and recognized patterns that indicated shifts in climate. Their knowledge was cumulative, built over generations and adapted to the specific territories they occupied. This localized expertise likely created distinct regional traditions, cultural identities shaped by landscape and necessity. Their physical adaptations complemented their mental ones. The robust build of Neanderthals was not merely a biological response to cold climates, it influenced their behavior and toolkit. Their powerful arms and broad chests allowed them to engage in close-range hunting, shaping their weapon designs and strategies. Their large noses and sinuses helped warm frigid air before it reached the lungs. Their enhanced vision in low light may have allowed them to navigate dim cave environments and twilight hunting periods more effectively. These traits did not exist independently of culture. They intertwined with their strategies for survival, influencing how they moved, built shelters, and coordinated hunts. The presence of pigment residues on tools and shells suggests that Neanderthals may have decorated objects or their bodies. Some archaeological sites reveal carved talons of raptors, possibly used as pendants or symbolic ornaments. These artifacts suggest an awareness of representation and meaning, behaviors that go beyond simple utility. While not as widespread or elaborate as the symbolic traditions of later Homo sapiens, these findings challenge long-held assumptions that Neanderthals lacked imagination. Communication played a central role in their social cohesion. Anatomical reconstructions show that Neanderthals possessed the physical capability for speech. A hyoid bone similar to modern humans, a basicranial flexion adequate for complex vocalization, and genes associated with language development. While their sound patterns may have differed from ours, they likely had a rich communicative system that supported cooperation during hunts, shared knowledge across generations, and built emotional bonds within the group. Throughout their long history, Neanderthal groups endured repeated cycles of population expansion and contraction. Climate fluctuations forced them to abandon territories, adapt to new environments, and confront ecological pressures that tested their resilience. Yet despite these challenges, they persisted across vast spans of time. Their ability to adapt was not solely biological. It was cultural, rooted in their intelligence, cooperation, and capacity to learn. Their world was dynamic, filled with danger, beauty, and constant transformation. Neanderthals did not merely react to their environment, they actively shaped it through their choices, tools, social systems, and symbolic practices. They built lives filled with purpose, shaped by tradition yet constantly evolving. But their story was about to intersect with another lineage, one whose strategies and cultures differed in subtle yet impactful ways. The meeting of these two human worlds would reshape prehistory and leave a genetic legacy still present in billions of people today. For hundreds of thousands of years, Neanderthals thrived across Europe and Western Asia, with no sign that another human species would one day enter their territories. Their world, though harsh and unpredictable, was familiar, shaped by slow-moving glacial cycles, migrating herds, seasonal shelters, and cultural traditions passed down through countless generations. But roughly 60,000 to 50,000 years ago, new humans began pushing into these landscapes. These newcomers, already adapted to long-distance travel and possessing distinct technologies and social behaviors, gradually expanded into regions where Neanderthals had lived for ages. Their arrival marked one of the most transformative periods in human history, the first widespread contact between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. This encounter did not happen at a single moment or at a single location. Instead, it unfolded over millennia across a vast geographic mosaic stretching from the Levant to Iberia and from the Caucasus to the Atlantic. Archaeological layers reveal alternating sequences of Neanderthal and modern human occupation, suggesting shifting territorial boundaries, periods of coexistence, and possibly even shared landscapes for extended durations. The interactions between these two human lineages were diverse, sometimes competitive, sometimes cooperative, and often invisible to the archaeological record except for subtle traces left in tools, settlements, genes, and bones. The earliest evidence of contact comes from the Levant, where Neanderthals and Homo sapiens occupied caves in alternating phases long before the final waves of migration into Europe. These encounters likely shaped the behavioral flexibility of both groups. As modern humans moved northward, they entered environments that Neanderthals had mastered for hundreds of millennia. Every river valley, hunting ground, and seasonal migration route had already been mapped through generations of observation. For the incoming sapiens, encountering such local experts could have resulted in tension or opportunities for exchange. Competition for resources remains one of the most widely discussed explanations for Neanderthal decline. Both species hunted similar prey, used similar shelters, and relied on high-energy diets driven by large mammals. When sapiens began spreading into Neanderthal territories, they brought with them behaviors that may have gradually shifted the ecological balance. Their long-distance social networks allowed for sharing of resources, innovations, and information across groups separated by many kilometers. This ability to maintain contact over distance gave modern humans a significant advantage during periods of environmental instability. Neanderthals, in contrast, lived in smaller, more localized groups. Their populations were less connected, more vulnerable to sudden changes, and less able to recover from local losses. If a group of sapiens arrived in a valley just as prey numbers declined or climate conditions worsened, Neanderthals might have found themselves pushed into marginal territories. Such patterns do not require direct conflict or violence. They emerge naturally in systems where one species possesses broader cooperative networks and more flexible strategies. Despite competition, the genetic record reveals that contact between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens was not solely antagonistic. Interbreeding occurred repeatedly in multiple regions. Every person of non-African descent today carries traces of Neanderthal DNA, between 1% and 4%, depending on ancestry. These genetic fragments are not remnants of a single event, but markers of multiple interactions over thousands of years. Some genes inherited from Neanderthals influence modern immune systems, skin physiology, and even responses to altitude and cold. This genetic legacy demonstrates that Neanderthals were not an isolated species, incapable of connecting with newcomers. They formed relationships that left lasting biological impacts. Yet interbreeding alone does not explain their eventual disappearance. Climate instability intensified during the final stages of Neanderthal existence. Around 40,000 years ago, Europe experienced abrupt temperature fluctuations known as Heinrich and Dansgaard-Oeschger events. These climatic swings reshaped ecosystems with astonishing speed, transforming forests into barren steppes, or vice versa, in mere decades. Large herbivores migrated unpredictably, water sources changed, and familiar patterns disappeared. Neanderthals, already living in small dispersed groups, faced pressures that pushed them to the limits of their resilience. Modern humans had advantages under such unstable conditions. Their broader diets, which included more plants, fish, and small animals, reduced dependence on a narrow set of prey. Their tools allowed for longer distance travel and more efficient hunting from a safer range. Their social networks facilitated the sharing of knowledge about shifting environments. Neanderthals, although highly adaptable within Ice Age ecosystems, were tightly tuned to specific niches that suddenly fractured. Archaeological records from the final Neanderthal sites reflect this tension. Tools associated with late Neanderthals, such as those from the Châtel-Perronian tradition, show an intriguing blend of Neanderthal and modern human technologies. Whether this mix resulted from cultural diffusion, imitation, or independent innovation remains debated. But it suggests that Neanderthals were aware of modern human methods and responded to them. They were not passive observers. They attempted to adapt. Yet these adaptations may have come too late. or occurred too unevenly across their fragmented populations. Some regions show evidence of prolonged coexistence. In Eastern Europe and parts of the Near East, Neanderthal and modern human artifacts appear within the same layers, indicating overlapping occupations. These periods may have involved shared hunting territories, occasional exchanges, and even cooperative interactions. But as modern human groups became more numerous, their strategies increasingly dominated the landscape. Neanderthals gradually retreated to refuges, mountainous areas, coastal zones, and isolated valleys, where diminishing populations struggled to maintain cultural continuity. Their final strongholds, such as Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar, reveal a poignant image of their last centuries. Here Neanderthals lived along rocky coastlines, gathering shellfish, hunting small game, and maintaining hearths that burned for generations. Carved lines on cave walls from these late sites hint at symbolic expression, perhaps a final assertion of identity in a shrinking world. Yet even in these refuges, environmental pressures and competition continued to intensify. As their numbers dwindled, the social structure that had sustained Neanderthals for so long began to fracture. With fewer individuals in each group, the exchange of ideas slowed. Genetic diversity plummeted, reducing resilience against disease and environmental stress. The death of a single skilled hunter or elder could destabilize an entire community. Over time, these pressures accumulated until the remaining groups could no longer maintain themselves. Their disappearance was not a single catastrophe, but a gradual fading across generations. There is no evidence of widespread violence or direct extermination by Homo sapiens. Instead, Neanderthals faced a perfect storm of challenges: rapid climate change, competition with an expanding human species, shrinking habitats, and the inherent fragility of small populations. They endured as long as they could, drawing upon their remarkable abilities, but eventually their world contracted beyond recovery. Yet their story did not end with their extinction. Their genes continue to influence billions of people alive today. Their techniques shape the cultural landscapes inherited by early modern humans. Their presence forced Homo sapiens to innovate, adapt, and evolve. And their legacy remains embedded in humanity's deep past, offering a reminder that the human story is not linear, but braided, shaped by the rise, endurance, and disappearance of multiple human species. As modern humans expanded into the last Neanderthal territories, the Ice Age world was entering a phase of profound transformation. The lineage that had thrived for over 300,000 years slowly vanished, leaving behind footprints, tools, hearths, and fragments of DNA. Their final chapter is not one of sudden destruction, but of gradual transition, shaped by forces beyond any single group's control. The final centuries of the Neanderthals were shaped by an intricate blend of diminishing numbers, climatic upheaval, shrinking territories, and increasing competition from expanding modern human groups. Their disappearance was not a dramatic collapse, but a slow, uneven process unfolding across thousands of years. Each region experienced the decline differently. Some populations vanished abruptly, while others endured for generations in isolated refuges. Archaeological and genetic evidence allows a detailed reconstruction of these last moments, offering a rare glimpse into how a once thriving human lineage gradually faded from the world. As modern humans spread deeper into Europe, Neanderthal groups retreated into fragmented landscapes where survival had become progressively more difficult. Their territories shrank not because they lacked strength or skill, but because environmental conditions were changing faster than they could adapt. Forests expanded and contracted with climate oscillations, altering the availability of prey. Rivers shifted course, plains turned to tundra, and previously rich hunting grounds became unpredictable. These fluctuations were part of broader climatic cycles, yet the speed and intensity of these changes during the final Neanderthal millennia created unprecedented challenges. Small population sizes intensified these pressures. Genetic analyses reveal that late Neanderthal groups were extremely small, sometimes numbering only a few dozen individuals. Low population density limited the exchange of ideas, weakened cultural resilience, and increased vulnerability to accidents, injuries, and disease. In such small groups, the loss of even a single skilled hunter or experienced elder dramatically affected survival. Furthermore, low genetic diversity introduced long-term health risks, reducing resistance to pathogens and lowering the likelihood of healthy offspring. Each generation faced steeper obstacles than the one before. Some of the most revealing late Neanderthal sites are found in Western Europe, particularly the Iberian Peninsula. These regions appear to have been refuges where Neanderthals held out long after their populations dwindled elsewhere. The rugged cliffs and coastal caves of Gibraltar provided shelter, food resources, and relatively stable climates, even as the rest of Europe underwent rapid environmental shifts. Gorham's Cave, one of the last known Neanderthal refuges, preserves layers of hearths, tools, and food remains that attest to their endurance. These coastal groups gathered shellfish, hunted birds, and harvested marine resources, an adaptive strategy that extended their survival. Yet even in these sanctuaries, the pressures mounted. Rising sea levels, changing coastlines, and increasing aridity slowly eroded these last pockets of habitable land. Small prey became scarcer. Large herbivores moved northward. Freshwater sources fluctuated. The same environmental volatility that shaped their evolution ultimately contributed to their decline. The archaeological record from this period is intriguingly mixed. Some sites show signs of innovation, new tool types, modified hunting strategies, and possible symbolic behaviors. These suggest that Neanderthals were not stagnant, but actively responding to changing conditions. In the Châtelperronian layers of southwestern France, stone tools blend Neanderthal and modern human characteristics. Whether these reflect imitation, independent invention, or cultural exchange remains a matter of debate, but they demonstrate a species striving to adapt despite mounting challenges. Their interactions with modern humans during this period were probably varied and complex. Some encounters likely involved competition for resources, while others resulted in cooperation or interbreeding. Genetic evidence shows that interbreeding occurred repeatedly, not as isolated events but as part of ongoing contact. These interactions left a lasting legacy. Fragments of Neanderthal DNA persist in billions of people today, influencing immunity, metabolism, and various physiological traits. In certain environments, these inherited genes offered advantages to early modern human populations, helping them survive diseases or adapt to cold climates. The final disappearance of Neanderthals is recorded within a narrow window between 42,000 and 40,000 years ago. But this time frame masks enormous regional variation. Some populations may have disappeared earlier, while others lingered longer than current evidence indicates. Their extinction was not instantaneous. It unfolded as a patchwork of vanishing groups, each confronting unique local pressures. When viewed as a whole, the pattern reveals a species pushed to the margins until its remaining populations were too small and too isolated to persist. The question of why Neanderthals vanished has inspired countless hypotheses. Some explanations emphasize competitive exclusion by modern humans. Others highlight climate change or demographic vulnerabilities. Yet no single factor alone fully accounts for their extinction. Instead, their disappearance reflects the combined effects of environmental instability, fragmented populations, and the arrival of a flexible, rapidly expanding human species with broader social networks and different adaptive strategies. The outcome was not predetermined. Had climate cycles or migration patterns unfolded differently, the story might have taken another direction. Despite their extinction, the Neanderthal legacy remains profound. Their genes continue to influence modern immune responses, skin characteristics, and adaptations to cold. Some inherited traits increase susceptibility to certain diseases, while others provide resistance to different pathogens. Their cultural innovations, fire control, tool-making, hunting strategies, and care for the injured represent a rich heritage that shaped the evolutionary landscape into which modern humans entered. The coexistence between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens was not a replacement event, but a merging of worlds. The modern understanding of Neanderthals has shifted dramatically from earlier depictions. No longer seen as primitive caricatures, they are recognized as skilled hunters, innovative toolmakers, and socially complex humans who navigated some of the harshest environments ever inhabited. Their capacity for empathy, cooperation, and cultural transmission is evident across numerous archaeological sites. Their endurance across multiple climate cycles illustrates extraordinary resilience. Their adaptability, though eventually outpaced by rapid environmental shifts and competition, allowed them to thrive for hundreds of millennia. The story of the Neanderthals is not simply a tale of extinction. It is a reminder that humanity's past is deeply interconnected. Modern humans did not arise in isolation, but evolved alongside other human species, learning from them, mixing with them, and inheriting parts of their biology. The traces of Neanderthals within modern genomes testify to a shared past that continues to shape life today. Their disappearance underscores the fragility of small populations and the profound influence of environmental change. It highlights the importance of cultural resilience, cooperation, and innovation in human survival. And it invites reflection on how many other human lineages may have risen, thrived, and disappeared long before written history. In the end, the Neanderthals left behind more than stone tools and fossils. They left a legacy woven into the deepest layers of human identity, a lineage that shared the earth with modern humans, shaped their evolution, and endures in the genetic memory of countless individuals across the world. Their story is one of strength, adaptation, vulnerability, and connection, an essential chapter in the larger narrative of humanity. Don't forget to subscribe. It really supports the channel and helps us bring you more great stories.